Hello, YouTube. Negan's shocking kill. I gotta say, this is my first YouTube video ever. Anyone who knows me knows I would never, ever usually do this. But there's been too much hype, too much talk about this series, and I gotta say, I have been trying to figure it out just like everybody else. And this is what it took to get me onto social media in this way. So here I am. Please go easy on me. I did not spend very long on this. This is my rant on it, okay? I gotta say, second of all, I guess, is that I truly did not think it would be this character that's gonna die, and that died in the season 6 finale. And I'm trying to give the show credit. How could they do this to us? How could they make us wait like this? How could they tease us and trick us? Well, that's kind of their job. But if they did this, I think a lot of people would agree that we can forgive the cliffhanger. So here goes. Who is Negan's shocking kill? I'm leaning towards Carl. I'll just get it out there. I have these 7 general points. There are others, and if I decide I'm actually going to go to the trouble of making a second video, because it's my first one ever, I will try to get into some points of refutation in terms of other theories. But let me rip through this real quick and see if you guys can actually come down to this point of view. I have considered several other people. I've looked at all the other stuff. There's a lot of convincing things out there, but I just can't get past certain things. And in the end, if it's this, it does explain a lot. So here we go. Okay, point number 1. Well, these are my overall summary of my views. Negan's head movements, Negan's words, Negan's focus, Negan's motivation and knowledge, the foreshadowing, the camera angle, and the shadow issue. So let's go to the first point. Okay, Negan's head movements. Okay, remember in the last scene, he does look right and left of the victim from the first person point of view. Why would he do this if it's somebody on the end? He's still looking down. He's not talking to his own guys. If this is true, if we can trust this cinematic production, then, which has been on point with this show up to this point, we can't be Eugene. It can't be Glenn. So if this show is to have any credit with cinematography, let's get rid of this whole it's Glenn thing. Second, yes, he does motion to the right when he mentions Carl's eye. But let's think about this. Which eye did he lose? He lost his left eye. From Negan's point of view, the right side. Watch the scene again. You'll see what I mean. Could he be motioning to the one and only eye that's left that he's threatening? That would also make sense. Second point, Negan's words. Why did he say the specific line unless the victim could really present a motivation for others to take action or step in or say something or make a move? It would make sense that if he's going to kill the kid, that he has to give some kind of warning because someone might make a move. Right? As well, he says, after what he says, we'll cut the boy's other eye out and feed it to his dad, and then we'll start. So people who first said, doesn't make sense to cut out his eye if he's being smashed to death or what have you, well, he doesn't say that he's going to do that. He says he'd do that and then start the beating. That is just cruel and unusual. As one guy said in his video, that's messed up, dude. Yeah, it is messed up. This whole thing's messed up. This whole show's messed up. I think it actually makes sense. It actually would make sense that he would threaten sheer terror and torture like that for what he's trying to do. We'll get more about his motivation later. The other thing is, when you say taking it like a champ, that's kind of like a thing you would say to a kid. Only some characters would show that shock. I mean, you would say that to someone that you don't really expect to be able to take it like a champ. And Negan does seem surprised. That would match if it's Carl. Now, could Carl take it like a champ? I don't know. I joked with someone that, hey, maybe his hat protected him somehow. Okay, that's a pretty bad point, I know. But that does match. The words, Negan's words do match. And especially when he says, you can blink, you can breathe, you can breathe, you can blink, you can cry. Hell, you're all going to be doing that. Which one character's death could guarantee that they would all be doing that? Well, there might be a couple. If it's a female, for example, we could see that. Maggie, for sure, but killing a pregnant woman is a little bit much. Killing a kid is much too, but for some reason I don't think it's as bad as killing a pregnant woman. So you're all going to be doing that. It really does seem to match again. And once I had this idea in mind and I watched the ending again, all of Negan's words suddenly made sense. So something to chew on. Next points, moving along. Negan's focus, okay? Other than Maggie and also Rick, he only spends time with Carl. Maggie, when he says, you look like crap, and Rick, when he obviously has to introduce himself and, talk to him about a few things, such as, including Carl, actually. That's the thing. Most of the time, he's actually talking to Rick, other than his introductory speech, is when he's referring to Carl. Right? Don't make me kill the little future serial killer. This is definitely your kid. That's a lot of focus, right? Also, he specifically sits down, crouches down, talks to Carl, tells him to at least cry a little bit or something, and he mentions about him taking their weapons, taking their guns, right? And I'm going to get back to that in a little bit as well. That seems to stand out also. So Negan gave so much focus to him, and I can't ignore that. Next point, Negan's motivation and knowledge. He wants to utterly break Rick. What better way to break him than to kill his son? And yes, he knows it's his son. We've established that. Just mentioning that got a rise out of Rick, right? And he knows he's hit a sore spot. This is very interesting and important knowledge for Negan. Of course, would Rick step in? Obviously, is the big question. Everyone's like, yeah, of course he'd step in. I think that too, but what about Judith? What else does Negan know? He may have spies. He seems to have a lot of knowledge about them. How does he even know Rick's name? Nobody told it to him. He knows more than we would have given him credit for at first. Maybe he knows about Judith. Maybe he knows that might be the one thing that would stop Rick, on top of the additional torture that he threatens. Also, he said he wants them to know what he can do. Well, what he can do is create absolute terror and dominate in this way. That is one possible explanation. He also wants to be as cruel as possible. What ways would be crueler than this? This is, unimaginable, which is exactly why so many people have been rejecting Carl as a possibility, because that's just too much. But it would do the trick, wouldn't it? And they said for that, they gotta pay. This would be the ultimate price. Losing their youngest, losing the little one they all try to protect, that would be a hefty price indeed. It would get Negan's point across completely. And Negan says he wants them to work for him. He doesn't want to kill them, but Maggie might get better. Everyone else there may serve some purpose, but what good is this one-eyed kid who's eventually going to grow up with resentment and maybe be a threat in the future? Who knows? I know he's important apparently in the comic. I don't know, I haven't read the comic, but I also know that the show seems to be going in a different direction. So why would he want a one-eyed kid? Maybe he wouldn't. Next point, the foreshadowing, okay? The mustache guy confronts Carl about the gun, and Lucille is on the gun. And they really kind of are ominous about that, and they give Carl extra attention in that way as well. When Carl says goodbye to Enid, she says, what if you don't come back? And he's all like JSS and all that, right? Not many people are talking about that. I haven't seen anyone talk about that actually. And that is a kind of a subtle yet not so subtle point where we have to think, maybe Carl, right? Also, earlier when they said, what if it's the last day on earth for you or someone you love, other than Michonne, who's someone he loves? Carl, right? Also, if you look at Rick's face as they're sitting down, as Negan's walking by, that look on his face, the feeling of dread, he knows something absolutely terrible for him is going to happen. This fits the bill. Next point, the angle. Carl is shorter. He is the shortest character. At the end, from the first person point of view, the person is clearly looking up. That would explain why we can't see the RV and whatnot. And Negan's truly hovering over them. Yeah, he'd be hovering over everyone because he's standing, but it seems extra extreme. If you look at the bat angle, when he says, you are it, it's really low. It's really pointing downwards. It would make sense if this was Carl, right? Also, could the final point of view have anything to do with the fact that we are looking through the one eye? Is that somehow that tunnel vision? Does that, I don't know, is there something there? Not sure. Final point. Listen, the one thing I could not get over when I was considering all the other theories is, yes, but what about the shadow passing over Rick's face? It really does seem like that is the final thing that Negan does before he says it. And it was obvious enough, they're smart enough not to include such a big mistake unless it has some meaning. I tried, but I have to believe it has some significance. If that's true, we have to rule out everyone to Rick's right or left. That means, as you know, Eugene, Carl, Aaron, Sasha, they're the only possibilities. So, really, it's got to be one of them if this cinematography is to have any value at all. Also, the way the light's coming, the light source, if you look at Negan at the end, it is consistent with where Carl was placed. And if you look back, you'll see what I mean. Also, you know that he had to be close to Rick because of this shadow thing. He did not go far from Rick. I think many people agree the person who struck was close to Rick. And the fact that the shadow passes to Rick's left, it's just, like I said, too obvious to ignore. And yes, I know about the rumors about the shadow of Carl's hat on Negan as he strikes. Even though this is the person I'm trying to convince everyone that it might be, I don't know about that. It's a little far-fetched. So, conclusion, look, out of these 4 people, Aaron and Sasha, they cannot justify this cliffhanger. They cannot justify this wait. It would not make sense. Eugene, also not big enough. And remember, because of the head movements, can't be someone on the end. Carl makes sense. Listen, this guy, he's a kid. The out of universe explanation is he's a growing actor. Look at his growth spurt already. It doesn't make sense for them to be able to continue the show. The show's moving slowly and then trying to make it move even slower. What are they going to do when this kid is taller than everyone else suddenly? They're going to have continuity issues. For that reason, it makes a good sense, actually. And the shadows do rule out everyone else, and out of these 4, it could only really be Carl if it's to match the shock value and what we see on screen. This would justify the cliffhanger. I think just about everyone would forgive the cliffhanger if it was Carl. And Negan's words really do make much more sense. At first I thought his comment ruled out Carl, but then we'll start, you're all going to be doing that, cut the boy's other eye out. He is giving him that attention, he's singling him out. And the staff's words, the Walking Dead staff, like the actors, the producer, the writer, that what they've said will make sense this way. We wouldn't be able to figure it out. Well, hey, maybe we did. But they did try to throw us off in several ways. They did try to throw us off. And they were pretty much successful. Because, look, everyone's guessing. But when they said it's a beloved character, maybe not beloved to me, but beloved to the characters, for sure. And also when the staff didn't want to come in for filming, sick the night before, that makes sense. This is the shock that we're talking about. But I have to say, good riddance. Sorry, guys, I had to say it. But I have not been digging this guy. He's been getting on my last nerve for several seasons now. Pretty much since season 2. and especially the way he treated Rick when Rick was all beat up from the governor. Since that point, I was just waiting for Carl to die, so that's kind of why I hope it's him. So rip Carl, and good luck to the actor Chandler Riggs. And yeah, I guess, you know what, that's my YouTube video, my first one ever, and I know it was low budget, but let me know what you guys think. If there's comments to make, I'd appreciate it, and I want to know what you guys think about this whole ordeal. And if you guys think that there's any credulence to this at all, because I was the last person who'd think Carl, trust me, but I can't ignore the facts anymore, and it does explain a lot. Okay guys, take care, and I guess we'll find out in October who's right, who's wrong.